Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mackenzie Smith. I'm the University Librarian and Vice Provost for Digital Scholarship here at UC Davis. And I want to welcome you all to our third annual Lang Prize ceremony, one of my favorite events of the year. The Lang Prize was established 3 years ago to recognize undergraduates who've made exceptional use of library resources for a research project. By highlighting excellence in undergraduate research, we hope to inspire more students to explore the incredibly vast resources available to them through the library. This is a very underutilized resource that is available to every undergraduate, graduate student, and faculty member, and member of the community here at UC Davis. And this prize is a great way for us to highlight that and encourage more use. Before we begin, I really need to thank a number of people who've been critical to this event. First of all of the students who applied. We're really grateful to you for taking the time and making the effort, and we hope that you think it paid off. We want to thank the committee who judged the applications. They put in countless hours with that, and we really appreciate their efforts. I want to thank the library team who organized this event. They put a lot of effort into it, and I hope you agree that it's a very nice event. And finally, I want to thank the Lang family who've made all this possible for us. Today we have with us the nephew of Professor Norma Lang, for whom this award is named. Norma Lang was a professor in the plant biology department in the College of Biological Sciences for many, many years. She taught botany for almost 30 years, and her specialty was algae. And she is remembered for her two greatest passions, her dedication to students and her love of research and the research process. It's thanks to the generous gift that she left to the library that we were able to create this prize. And her nephew Andy was a valuable, invaluable partner in ideating this prize and figuring out how we could really honor Norma's legacy most effectively. So with that, I would like to ask Andy Lang to come up and say just a few words about his beloved aunt. I know he's here, I saw him come in. There you are. So Andy, would you please come up and just say a few words to us, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mackenzie. It's great to be here again for the third year. I must apologize, I'm a little bit casual, thanks to the airline that still has my bag in their possession, but I thought maybe I looked a little, collegial, professorial, what have you. I didn't put together any prepared remarks. I was just going to kind of ramble on for a few things. A lot of what Mackenzie just shared with you are things that I would echo as well, and I'll come back to them. But I thought maybe I could just take a minute and talk about my aunt, whom I knew very well. And I spent many years visiting her here in Davis, mostly after she had retired from her role as a professor at the university. And Aunt Norma was a very unique individual. Any of you who knew her, she was a very demanding, sometimes a few rough edges, but as Mackenzie pointed out, she had enormous love for education, for her students, and for research, and she carried that on after she retired. Part of her legacy was, and something I'll comment on again, a desire to give back. And so she spent a lot of time working with women to help them with literacy. She worked out of the Woodlands Community Center, Woodlands Library, and did that for many years, and had a great deal of success helping others succeed. And that was part of her way of giving back to some of the things she gained. She also was very unique. In her time frame as a woman, a female, breaking into the role of being a professor, maybe a little bit not as easy as it is today. Back when she was, that would have been back in the early 70s, and I know she had some rough times. She shared those with me at times, at her frustration with dealing in a world that may have been somewhat dominated by the other gender. But she stayed the course, and I think what we see today, for example, of the recipients, We've got, I think, 4 or 5 of the 6 are female. They've been female last year, so I think that's wonderful. That would give her enormous pride in seeing that result and being coming from her support for the university, for the library. And I must say, and I've shared this with the university library staff, what Mackenzie and her team and the university have done is way beyond, I think, what her expectation would have been from the gifts she left behind. She made a generous gift and was happy to give that back to the university, but I don't think she had any expectation of what would develop with the Lang Prize. So Mackenzie and all your team and a whole slew of them from the development group and the library staff, my hat's off to you. You've taken this to a level that's really very impressive. And I think one of our challenges, and the challenge I would give to all of you, students, faculty, is don't forget one of the contributions that helped you get where you are, and that was the University of California, Davis, and there's an opportunity to return that favor, much like she did. She loved Davis. She loved UC Davis. I'm very pleased to report that when she finished her PhD at Indiana, she did her undergraduate at Ohio State, PhD in Indiana, and then she did her postdoctorate work at the University of Texas at Austin, which I happen to have a great affinity for because that's where I went to school. And then came to Davis and spent the rest of her career here, and quite a notable career. I couldn't begin to tell you her accolades. Probably Dr. Jernstadt back there could articulate some of it, but she had, in her time frame, had a very distinguished career, and again, loved her students. I think the combination of using the gifts from her endowment for education and research are a great tribute to her legacy. So I thank you again. Congratulations to 6 recipients. I can't wait to read all your papers. I read them last year and the year before, and they were outstanding. And I have no doubt the bar's been raised again. Particular thanks to the folks that take the time to review all the papers and judge them and pick the winners. That's probably a challenging task, because I'm sure you have some papers that you think they all should be in here. So that's appreciate that. And again, to all the students who participated in the program, special thanks. And with that, I'll turn it back to Mackenzie. Thank you.
And now it's my special privilege to be able to ask our Provost and Executive Vice Chancellor, Ralph Hexter, to come up to the podium and say a few words.
Thank you, Mackenzie, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm delighted to be with you all today to celebrate these very talented scholars and their extraordinary research work. At the same time, I'm very glad to see so many constituencies of our university family among the audience who've come here for this purpose. The students we are honoring and their families and friends, faculty and academic federation members and library donors, donor board members and personnel among others, and of course you, Andy, thank you for your words. Your presence reflects the pivotal role of library-based research projects across the entire disciplinary spectrum. Thus, the 3 award categories are for works in the arts, humanities, and social sciences, engineering, and mathematics, and also, and social sciences, and also, for the first-year undergraduates, any academic subject or major. I participate in this ceremony primarily in my role as Provost and Executive Vice Chancellor, for it's my responsibility to uphold and advance, and my pleasure to celebrate academic excellence across our colleges, schools, and many departments. Constantly growing, our excellence is the key to increasing our real-world impact and succeeding in our mission to benefit individuals, global society, and the well-being of the entire planet. But I join you also as a professor of ancient Greek and Roman literature, a field whose knowledge and discoveries are heavily dependent on research in world-class libraries such as ours. Since my time as an undergraduate, when I was earning a degree in English literature, I've spent more hours than I can count thirstily drinking up information from library materials, whether in a carrel in very dark stacks, in a study table in a manuscript room, or at home with books I've borrowed. Those have been very happy hours. This habit and the research expertise it gave me have not only been integral to my career as a professor, they've also been for me an inexhaustible source of facts, ideas, and ways of understanding that are highly relevant to our modern world and my own life. Just as important, the acquisition of knowledge through library research has been for me a uniquely pleasurable and fulfilling activity, one that I cannot imagine doing without. I dare say that this year's award recipients already feel the same way. Taken together, my comments suggest how the Norma J. Lang Prize for Undergraduate Information Research is richly deserving of our admiration and gratitude. For affirming the importance of library-based research, for celebrating high excellence in this endeavor, and for inspiring other young scholars to follow in the footsteps of this year's honorees. The Lang Prize deserves our special recognition also because it makes a significant contribution to one of our university's top priorities. UC Davis is committed to supporting students from the first day they step on our campus until the day they graduate and beyond. Professors, staff, alumni, and friends all have their roles to play. The Lang Prize exemplifies this commitment in its recognition of undergraduate winners ranging from first-year students to seniors who have completed an honors thesis. The prize is also the product of a collaborative effort on the part of many individuals in many different campus roles, as both of our speakers have already said. For this reason, I want also to thank all of the members of our university, faculty, librarians, TAs, university writing program lecturers, and other mentors who have spent so many hours and given so much of their personal passion to support students engaged in library-based research. One has only to read any of this year's Lang Prize application essays to see what a tremendous impact these individuals have on our students. These are not the only ones, however, who've played an essential role. Many of our emeriti continue to contribute expertise, energy, and resources even after they have retired from active service. Professor Lang's wonderful bequest is a prime example. The library, too, is playing its role today by awarding and stewarding this prize in partnership with the Lang family. Thank you again. As a final comment, let me quickly add that it's exciting to see the coalition of support for this incredible award continue to grow throughout the university. This year's edition of a first-year prize was inspired by Dan Meltzer, Associate Director of First Year Composition, who also partnered with the library in shaping the evaluation rubric for it. Thank you to Dan and the library. Now, without further ado, let's meet our amazing students. Thank you.
Ooh, tall people. I'm Beth Callahan, and I have the very distinct pleasure of being the chair for the Lang Prize, and have been for the last 3 years. It is no secret, this is my favorite event of the year. I would like to thank so many of the people who are here today. Our sponsors for many of our candidates are here, and I am so pleased to see library staff and faculty, a whole range of support for our students who have been our winners. As the provost mentioned, this is our first year for the undergraduate prize, and we'd like to recognize Hanna Wang. Hanna, if you want to come forward and give us a few words about your prize.
Hello, as Beth said, my name is Hanna Wang, and I was the recipient for this year's first year prize for my paper entitled Kids in the Basement, Space and Virtuality in American and South Korean Esports. And I'd like to begin today just by telling you a little story about my junior year in high school. The date was October 29th, 2016. I was a junior. Thoughts of college were swirling in my head. My mom was telling me maybe I should become a researcher. I remember distinctly telling her no. I was like, I don't like research. I didn't want anything to do with research. And on the same exact day, I was flying out to Los Angeles, California for a weekend trip with my brother and my cousin. That Saturday, we were going to go to Staples Center, home of basketball teams, amazing concerts, but we were going there for a very specific purpose, which was to watch an esports game. Now, for those of you not familiar with esports, esports is professional video gaming, and I had never been to one of these events before. I remember thinking that I was not even the slightest bit interested in watching esports, but I went along with it, and I began to get a little more excited as I got closer. Little did I know that that day would be a turning point for me both as a researcher and as an esports fan. I stand here in front of you now as an esports researcher, and I've completed my first ever research project here at university on one of my favorite topics in the entire world, esports. So in order to complete this project, it was a long journey. Just like my journey from San Jose to Los Angeles, this research project has taken a lot of time and energy and effort, and also some of the most amazing resources that I have found here on campus. My mentor, Sam Pizzello, has helped me pinpoint my topic, not just studying esports as a broad industry, studying the players, studying the fans, studying my own personal opinions on where the industry should go, but on studying the interesting interactions between social space and competitive esports play. Through this unique focus, I was able to have some amazing experiences. First off, my first experience with French philosophical theory. Now, for anyone who's ever read French philosophical theory, I would like to applaud you for getting through it. For anyone who has not read French philosophical theory, run, get away as fast as you can, because that stuff is so hard to understand. But I found myself actually enjoying it as I got further along, and being able to find ways that such complicated theory related to something I was so passionate about was one of my favorite experiences of this project. Another experience that I'd like to highlight was my opportunity to interview one of my favorite esports players along the way. I got to set up a call with basically my favorite celebrity and just talk to him along with Sam for around half an hour, just to get to know his own personal thoughts and opinions on the industry, and use those thoughts and opinions and observations to further inform my work. Overall, the library has proved an invaluable resource for me as I've sought to make the incredibly convoluted comparison and find the commonalities between American esports, South Korean esports, and American traditional sports, and see how social space plays a huge role in uniting them all. So I would really like to thank the library, as well as Sam, and all of the people that have supported me in fulfilling this project, completing this project, and winning this award. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
And a couple facts about Hanna Wang. She's a communication major, and her project was completed in fall of 2018 for a first-year seminar course, Cinema and Digital Media. Hannah's sponsor is, as you know, Sam Piazza, who is in the English department. In the science, engineering, and math category, we have a tie for second place this year between Janae Bennell and Nicholas Garafo. Even if you told me 3 times, I would. I'm so bad at names, so this is going to become a habit. Come on. Oh, wait, that's wrong. We're going to start alphabetically because this is a library. Janae Bennell.
Hello, thank you for the introduction. It's an incredible privilege and honor to be named as a recipient of the Lang Prize. I had never considered writing to be one of my strengths, but after this I've started to view my work a little bit differently. Thank you to both the Lang family for your generosity and the UC Davis Library for making this possible, and to my friends, family, and professors for all of their support. My report, Disparities in Cancer Incidence and Mortality on Native American Reservations, was written as a term paper for the course History of Cancer. It represents a culmination of a quarter's worth of in-depth research on a topic I previously knew little about, but was incredibly intrigued by. Having access to the incredible wealth of academic information through the UC Davis Library was invaluable to my research. And without such an extensive selection of information to pull from, my report wouldn't have been as nearly as in-depth and comprehensive. These sources gave me evidence that demonstrated there was a measurable difference in the rates of cancer incidence and mortality between different tribal communities and the rest of the country. The vast amount of reliable information accessible through the library allowed me to explain this was largely due to the range of socioeconomic factors, environmental exposure, disparities in healthcare, access and quality, and the Native American relationship with Western medicine. After having completed this report, there's so many new opportunities that come to light for me. I feel it's both made me a stronger researcher and a more conscientious individual. I'm now more comfortable using the library website than I have ever been before, and feel this will help me be successful in my classes in the future. There's endless resources available to students here, and you just don't need to know how to access them. Even having this report written has already been incredibly exciting and opened some new doors for me. I found a summer position that I really wanted, and I was specifically addressing the topics I'd been researching, so I sent in this report with my resume, and I am thrilled to say I got the job. None of this would have been possible without the UC Davis Library, so thank you for all the opportunities you guys have given me. Thank you.
Janae's major is global disease biology, and her project was completed in winter 2019 for her molecular and cell biology course, History of Cancer. Janae's sponsor is here today, Marina Crowder, who is in the molecular and cellular biology department. Okay, you come up and say this 3 times. Nick, it's your turn.
I first want to thank the Lang family, the library, and their dedicated staff for hosting this insightful award. It is truly inspirational to be among the few recipients of this scholarship. To begin, I'd like to start with a narrative. In 2014, my grandmother was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which has impacted my family's life, my life, and my future career goals. This paper is a small illustration of its impact. For my UWP class 104E, class Writing in the Sciences, I wrote a literature review on cancer therapeutics that target a recently discovered pathway called CD47 signal receptor protein alpha, or CD47 SIRP alpha. Naturally, our body's immune system eats dead cells, or infectious cells. These 2 proteins, CD47 and SIRP alpha, allow the immune system to talk to cells and decide what the immune system should and should not eat. This process by which this occurs can be thought of as baseball and a mitt. CD47 is the baseball on a healthy cell, while SIRP alpha is the mitt that allows the immune system to catch a ball. Once CD47 is received by SIRP alpha, there's a very specific reaction. For this pathway in particular, their reaction causes detachment, and the immune cell does not remove the cell. For this reason, CD47 is characterized as a don't eat me signal and prevents immune response. This is good if CD47 is only expressed on healthy cells. However, cancer has found ways to overexpress this signal and effectively hide from the immune system. What I researched was the various therapeutics used to prevent this don't eat me signal on cancer cells and how these therapies have developed from animal models to clinical trials. Along the way, I was helped by the library's research consultants. I overused their 24/7 email system and spent countless hours on their subject guides and databases. Ultimately, I cited more than 25 papers and formed my own opinion on future researches and which therapeutics provided the best response. Something I did not know going into this research was the direct impact this pathway would have on my family. Once I worked my way through the literature from the basic science to clinical trials, I found this therapeutic was being tested in non-Hodgkin's lymphoma patients, something that directly impacts my family's life. This changed my perspective from an objective reviewer to someone who's directly impacted by this therapeutic. This impact is often overlooked in basic science. To be clear, this therapeutic is by no means a cure nor the end of new therapeutics, but it may prove to be a current, more accurate, and less toxic therapeutic than what is currently being offered. Research is constantly shifting, and the professionals are inclined to correct and contradict their peers' results. I'm excited for what lies ahead and the impact I may have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nick's major is biochemistry and molecular biology, and his project was completed in winter of 2019 for his university writing program, Writing in the Professions Sciences. Nick's sponsor is Nathaniel Williams, who is in the English department. Our next person and our first prize winner is Samba Heaney Sudharan. Welcome.
Thank you for the kind introduction. I'm very grateful to be a 2019 recipient of the Norma J. Lang Prize. Thank you so much to the Lang family for their generous support and all the people at the UC Davis Library who have been so generous with their information. My project centered around the study of radiomics and its use in early cancer detection. Radiogenomics is when radiological scans are converted to higher dimensional data using genetic information. This information can help treat and diagnose diseases early. As a medical diagnostic tool, it holds great promise and also gives hope to many of the cancer patients who found about their diagnoses too late. I focused on the application of radiomics using ultrasound devices. As a diagnostic measure, ultrasound is often equivalent to the more expensive MRIs and CTs. Since 2014, there has been a lot of progress in ultrasound research with new transducers that have been developed. Some are even available using a mobile app. For patients in underserved populations, this is a very significant tool and a measure that can be used to develop and diagnose treatments. While writing my paper, I focused on radiomic studies on women with breast cancer. Aside from skin cancer, breast cancer is the most common cancer for American women. 1 in 8 American women will develop breast cancer in their lifetime. As a diagnostic prevention tool, this study helped me understand the promise that the field had. As I was working on this review, one thing that really stuck with me was the methodical nature of conducting a literature review. Before I learned the tools available to me, I'll have to admit the process was haphazard. I would use Google maybe, grab a source or two from the back of a bibliography, and hope that I would get the information I needed. But the UC Davis Library opened a lot of resources. After learning about the different databases, their strengths, their weaknesses, I realized there's a method to finding good and high quality resources. As a student, I'll have to admit, it's not often that we can do something so formulaic and also have a lot of fun. Apart from learning how to write a review paper, which is an important part of any scientist's toolkit, I also realized the library was more than a place to study. There are so many resources offered, including journal and magazine subscriptions and limitless books. The guidance from the librarians, including Dr. Gustafson, who was so helpful in this project, have been useful in both science and humanities courses. There's a level of support at Shields Library that I think is valuable to all students. This support is not something I knew of right away, but now that I know it's here, I'll be sure to take advantage of it. I'm hoping to apply to graduate school next year, and the library will continue to be my friend in this journey. Apart from writing an essay or two on the 4th floor or learning more about different topics in the field of genetics, I'm sure it will continue to be the backbone as I pursue scientific endeavors. Should I ever have to conduct a literature search in the future, I know exactly where to begin. I want to extend my sincere thanks once again to Dr. Gustafson and Dr. Nathaniel Williams. Without their generous guidance and support, this project would not have been possible. Thank you.
Samba Heaney's major is genetics and genomics, and her project was completed in winter of 2019 for her university writing program, Writing in the Professions Sciences. Sam's sponsor is Nathaniel Williams, name you've heard before. We're going to recruit him next year to be a judge, who is in the English department. We did that last year. We now have a new judge from one of our winners from the last year's prize. So we move on to the category of Arts and Humanities and Social Sciences. Our 3rd place winner is Angelica Joseph. Angelica? Angelica.
Hi, So my paper was on the SF MoMA, San Francisco Museum of Modern Art, and I looked at the redesign between the new building, which was built in 2016 by Snow Hetta, and the Boda building, which was built in 1990-something. And this was, the first architecture class I had taken and the first research paper I've ever written in college. And I knew I was going to do it because I used to have to walk by this museum to go to work, and it just really bothered me. It looked so strange and out of place, and I had gone there as a kid, and I had loved it. And I didn't understand why someone would make something so different and not as lovely. So I went to talk to my professor, Mr. Sadler, and I was like, okay, I think I want to do the SF MoMA. And he was like, oh my God, the stairs. And I was like, same. There were these beautiful stairs in the middle of the building, and they kind of just went up to the heavens, and it was perfect. And they got rid of them in the redesign. So that kind of brought me to my big research question, which was, why would someone design something that doesn't make sense for me? And I realized that why me and my professor and everyone else I had known didn't like this building was because it wasn't built for us. It was built for someone else. And I tried to figure out, what were each of these architects thinking about and who were they building for when they were building? And that was kind of the one big realization, was that Boda, the older architect, had been working towards this universal idea of mankind and would reference philosophers to understand what people needed. Whereas Snow Hetta would use this very complicated version of user profiling. So they'd build these individual people, what would a 7-year-old need, what would a mother need, and try to understand exactly their behavior and how they could adapt to that. So that was I kept going with that. I realized it reminded me a lot of the things that I was doing in work and the way that capital was moving in San Francisco, which was really fun. It was a totally new project because 2016 is pretty recent, and I ended up having to go back to sociology texts and through kind of blueprints, money, tracking how did things move, because no one had really discussed it, and most of the resources out there were discussing it as, hey, this new museum opened and it's kind of cool. Yes, that's pretty much it. I guess what this research project did for me was it kind of pushed me from a path that was working in finance and MBA to something that's very not that, which is interesting and exciting. And we'll see how that goes. Yeah, thank you.
For now, Angelica is a psychology major. We'll see where she ends up. And her project was completed in spring for 2018 for her art history course, Contemporary Architecture. Angelica's sponsor is Simon Sadler, who is in the design department. Next up, our second prize winner is Megan West.
Hello everyone, I'm Megan. Thank you, Lang family and the library, for facilitating this prize. I'm really honored to be a recipient. I wrote my senior thesis on Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre from 1847, where I originally wanted to analyze how the effects of the emotion of sympathy work in relation to the novel's main character, Jane. I quickly realized that a minor character, Bertha Mason, had a much more interesting relationship to sympathy, both in the novel itself and literary criticism written about the novel. While scholars have extensively studied how Bronte uses the abolitionist rhetoric of sympathy to talk about Jane's racialization, they have not discussed how the author strategically denies sympathy to the novel's woman from the British colonies, Bertha Mason. In my thesis, I discussed two significant gaps that have been left in the critical literature, both of which involve emotional responses toward or from the character Bertha in the mirroring emotions of sympathy and envy. I argue that Bronte combines two different theories of sympathy by utilizing Adam Smith's moral philosophy along with abolitionist rhetoric. Additionally, I argue that Bertha's envy becomes a response to inequality and a lack of sympathetic identification resulting from her racial oppression, revealing a crack in sympathy's mirror when it comes to Bronte's portrayal of race. My research adds to a long history of literary criticism that reveals how scholars have historically overlooked this crucial aspect of Bronte's novel. I utilized various resources from the library for my project, from finding my primary sources like the Anti-Slavery Reporter, a publication that was circulating during Bronte's time, to secondary resources and literary criticism found through various library databases like the MLA Bibliography. In addition to learning valuable critical thinking skills and the ability to think creatively about complex issues in literature, completing the project has given me a lot of confidence. As a transfer student and a first-generation college student, I've often doubted my ability to succeed in an academic environment and in research in general. But this project and winning this award has helped me realize that I have something really important to say and something significant to add to a long history of scholarship. Thank you.
Megan is an English and sociology major, and her project was completed in spring of 2018 for her English honors thesis. Megan's sponsor is Kathleen Fredrickson, who is in the English department. Our first prize winner, Julia. There you are. Welcome.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Julia Betchart, and I'm a fourth-year student majoring in history and minoring in biological sciences. My research focused on the influence of evangelical Christianity on health and medical practices in the American South from 1800 to 1860. Though I completed my research paper last spring, I would cite the origins of my research process to my early high school years. I was always an avid reader. My first job was in a library, and my favorite genre was historical fiction, sparking my appreciation for American history. I carried this interest with me to UC Davis. My sophomore year, I enrolled in a women's history class with Professor Ellen Hartigan O'Connor. I loved the process of weaving together stories from the past and having a professor who encouraged curiosity and questions. Soon after this class, I changed my major to history. An amazing part of the history program at Davis is the opportunity to do independent research, and I feel very lucky to have had both the mentorship of Professor Hartigan O'Connor and the invaluable resources from Shields Library, including research specialists, collections, and online databases. While I initially planned to focus on women's history in the American South, my research course changed direction after stumbling across a medical guide from 1863. I was intrigued by the contrast between the seemingly advanced medical practices, everything from childbirth to a how-to on amputations. Hopefully, one part was used more than others, and a section on Christianity. To Professor Hartigan O'Connor in office hours, I wondered, was this a take on holistic health, a primitive Dr. Oz-style guide? How common was the pairing of religion and medicine during this time period, and how did one influence the other? I decided to tackle these questions for my research project. I'm very grateful to have worked with Dr. Dan Goldstein, a research librarian here at Shields, who showed me ways in which I could find sources in a targeted manner, such as through the subject guides and online virtual libraries. One such online library, called Haughty Trust, provided a variety of sources from sermons to medical college lectures. These texts, coupled with other primary sources such as home remedy guides and an interview with a formerly enslaved individual, allowed me to create a more comprehensive paper that included a wide range of narratives. The Shields Library resources taught me how to pursue my curiosities and answer my own questions through utilizing research materials. This is a skill I can apply for the rest of my career. Finally, I'd like to thank both the reviewing committee and the family of Norma J. Lang for this award. I feel extremely honored to receive this recognition. I hope that in the future, I can represent the Lang Prize through embodying the values of learning and research, two tenets I've developed through Shields Library.
As you heard, Julia is a history major, and her project was completed in spring of 2018 for her history course, Historical Research. Julia's sponsor is Ellen Hartigan O'Connor, who is in the history department. And with that, we conclude the remarks for the program. Thank you all for attending. Please, we've got quotes from all of the projects that were turned in. Make a point to talk to our wonderful students, because really, UC Davis students, best in the world. Thanks so much.
And with that, you are free to go. Mingle, please enjoy some refreshments over here. Thank our students for applying and congratulate them on winning, and thank you all for coming. We really appreciate it.